I was kind of struggling with this. I wanted to know if, like, wanting to be asexual is okay, not actually being it, but, like, that's what I would prefer to be.
Sure.
Asexuality is just as valid a sexuality as any other.
Well, asexuality is valid, but then I would also suggest that wanting to be something that you're not is a human emotion and not one that I would judge. I think we say often on this show that your thoughts, your wants, your desires aren't something you need to take captive. They're not something you need to apologize for. So I think it's human to have that desire, especially if you're in a place where your sex drive, your romantic drive, your whatever else is causing complications on your life. You know, that's a very real struggle. And if you're finding yourself lonely or unable to make time or unable to find a sexual partner or just struggling in those ways, wishing you could delete that part of yourself makes sense. I mean, if I didn't get hungry, I wouldn't have to stop what I was doing or be a total asshole to my girlfriend when I haven't had any dinner. I think that desire to delete that part of your source code or to change who you are is a very human one. But I would encourage you to recognize that you are who you are. And while that may shift or change and have some fluidity to it throughout your life, it's not a flip that you can switch. And I think it can be a little dangerous to maybe deify or to look overly jealously towards some other type of sexuality. You know, there's not a small part of me that thinks about or desires to be a lesbian. And I don't want to throw that out there cavalierly, and I don't want to be too weird about it, but I think that a lot of straight cis men have that desire, and that can lead to fetishizing lesbian sex, and it can lead to a lot of other issues and concerns. So I know that's a very long-winded answer, and I definitely want to hear more from you and give you a chance to jump in, but I think that's kind of a way of framing the conversation.
I don't know, I feel like sexuality just seems like this lizard brain thing that I don't really care about, and it's just kind of obnoxious, like you were saying. I don't know.
Wouldn't it be easier to not be hungry? I relate to that, but then I also wouldn't get to go out to nice dinners. You know, I wouldn't have the opportunity to eat like shitty cheese fries at bars. Like, you know, these are some of the things, the flavors, the spices of life that I really love and enjoy. So, you know, I can appreciate where you're coming from, but at the same time, I love loving sex. You know, if my sex drive were to evaporate, it would dramatically change the way I relate to myself, the way I relate to others, the way I experience the world.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I don't know. I have similar feelings about hunger and stuff like that too. So I don't know.
Yeah, well, you know, I don't know you, and I certainly don't mean to step in and pretend to make assumptions about your life, but that type of what we call anhedonia or lethargy can be a symptom of depression, and that may be something to seriously consider. You know, working with a counselor, therapist, psychiatrist, or some other practitioner to understand why you're not enjoying these aspects of life.
The Recovering from Religion Foundation, got that right this time. Last time I messed it up. Has the spearheads the Secular Therapy Project. So if you go to their website, you can find secular therapists in your area to maybe talk about this.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, and we really appreciate you calling the show. I hope that you'll take that into consideration. You know, there is obviously, as we're talking to Kevin, there are a million different, or perhaps 7 billion different views on what the meaning of life is. But you know, I'm personally of what we would call maybe the psychodynamic perspective, or just this very simplistic idea that life is about wanting things and then getting them, and wanting them too much can hurt, but not wanting them enough can leave life kind of flavorless and feeling meaningless. And so, if you find yourself in that place, there certainly are things that can help, and I hope you'll take advantage.
I I was just wondering, like, is it fair to compare it to, like, not wanting to participate in drinking or something like that?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I mean, in a lot of ways, there is that sort of like same sort of social isolation in a certain way. You know, there's no need to drink alcohol. There's no need to go out to bars. That's not something that people have to have by any means. And so plenty of people opt out of that. There is a social cost with opting out of that, and that cost is worth paying for many, many, many people, and I would encourage them to continue to do so. But opting out of sex is also going to have a social cost in some ways. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's a choice you get to make. You're totally welcome to never have sex again, to never masturbate again, if you never want to get another erection again. That's certainly a choice that you have the right to make. But there is going to be a cost that comes with that. And if that's a cost you choose to pay, then we totally support your decision to do that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate you giving us a call. You have a great night.
Take care, man. Friend, sorry, I don't know how you identify. I apologize.
Yeah, I think just stressing that a desire is not a moral or an immoral thing.
Sure.
Desires are
absolutely.
amoral. It doesn't have, objective weight on one side of the scale or the other. It's just what that desire may prompt you to do. If it's harmful to other people or to yourself, that then we take that into consideration. But wanting to be asexual, I get that. Yeah,
and the more we study psychology, the more we understand the brain, as we're still very much like sort of tinkering around in a dark room, bumping into things, trying to figure out how this stupid thing works.
Oh my gosh.
We recognize more and more that, playing whack-a-mole with your thoughts is only going to make them worse. That trying to tell yourself, don't think about pink elephants, don't want this, don't think about that, is going to drive you crazy. And so, the simplest, shortest answer to Xarok's question, is it wrong to want? I would certainly say no. Wanting is absolutely not wrong. Now, if you find yourself having those desires, it might be a good idea to ask yourself why, and then what are you going to do about that? And I hope that thing that you do is respectful of people who are, in the asexual community, who are ace or aro, and, these different things. But that desire, I think, is very human.
Mm-hmm. Amen.
I appreciate that, right?
Also, what you were saying
that is the first time somebody has amened me in quite a while. That's a flashback for me. I appreciate that.
That's a good Southern Christian woman, let me tell you.
I'll see you at the potluck.
Oh my gosh.